Ladies and gentlemen, we are back and I'm remembering to write up a little broadcast theme for the show. That's right, Jawn nearing its 100th episode where all the secrets will be revealed. I hope you have tuned in for each and every episode so you have been able to spot the clues we have dropped each show and written them down in your secret agent Jawn code book. On the magical 100th show, a winner will be revealed and flown to the magical resort where they used to send the winners from the dating game. These last few episodes before the 100th will be extra important as we will be dropping 2 clues each show, so you will have to pay extra close attention and keep your eye on Nathan's hands as he moves them back and forth in seemingly mysterious ways that once you've noticed the pattern you will obviously realize is a secret bonus clue that will double your chances for winning the fantastic getaway just miles across the US border in a faded but still glorious motel with a private bath and 2 pillows. Jawn. If you don't know how to watch it by now, you don't really care, so just text me and tell me to take you off our sponsors list. It's still cold in Staunton, so don't laugh at our winter gear and chattering teeth. See you at 7 o'clock.
Three little frogs sitting on a log, one of them fell in. One frog said to the other frog, well, you better go get her. 2 little frogs sitting on a log, one of them fell in. Little frog, he sat and thought, good thing they can swim. Jabberjaw, 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 Jabberjaw. Three little frogs sitting on a log, one burst into a grin. One frog said to the other frog, wonder what's got into him. 2 little frogs sitting on a log, one laughed until he was red. Last little frog, he sat and thought, must have been something I said. Jabberjaw, 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 Jabberjaw. You're just like, oh my goodness. Yay! Jabberjaw! We are worldwide. Hello, I'm Nathan Moore.
I'm Kyle Hall.
You're watching Jabberjaw. Welcome to the show. Hopefully, oh, I see Saul on Twitch, so we are seeing the chats. Talk to us. What do you want to talk about? We have nothing planned. I'm going to try a, oh, is this off? Make sure we'll keep an eye on your light. Make sure you stay on. Make sure
I could go off at any moment.
He's back. He's back. You might want to say your name again.
I don't remember. That was a long time ago.
I'm going to try a new one I've been working on here. We are fallen, but we can aspire. We can go for what's out of reach. And we might get lucky, and the stretching is something, at least. We are dreamers on pillow clouds. It's too much trouble to look down. There's a madman wailing out there. There's a rational fear of clowns. So if you see me, I hope you see me shining like it's all gonna be alright. Shining like sunlight, shining like sunlight on a never-ending night. We are empty and overflowing. We are broken, but stronger than before. Oh, I might not know where I'm going, but I'm not going back no more. We are not just mother or father. We are not just son or daughter. We are also a great blue heron, standing tall in the shallow water. So if you see me, I hope you see me shining like it's all gonna be alright. Shining like sunlight, shining like sunlight on a never-ending night. So if you see me, I hope you see me shining like it's all gonna be alright. Shining like sunlight, shining like sunlight on a never-ending night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that one of your makeout songs?
The arriving song. Is that a makeout song?
I think so.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, good.
Wow. Yeah, would you call that a political song?
That's what I was trying to figure out too.
And I guess they're all political songs on some level,
There you go.
but
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
but
that's
I
all right.
think it's a worthy topic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could see how you could go there pretty quickly.
It did stem from a little argument I was having, a political argument I was having through an email exchange, and
Right.
I wrote my retort or whatever, and the last line of the email was, "Why can't they just say we are fallen, but we can aspire?" And then I sent the email and picked up my guitar and went and started "We Are Fallen, but We Can Aspire," and it was more like to channel that energy into something healthy, and
Sure.
which is fascinating how often that happens, where a song will come from a place of friction or pain or anger or something, but a lot of times the song itself is not an angry or painful or friction and thing. It's a salve or whatever, or something inspired, like the irritation makes the pearl. But a lot of times I've written a lot of songs in anger that are some of the sweetest songs I've ever written. Sometimes the "I'll Show You" is not just like "you're stupid," it's more like, I don't know, it's just interesting how the source of the inspiration can a lot of times.
Well, what you did there with that that makes it questionably a political song is you didn't turn it into us and them. You just turned it over and just said, we're going to be good, because it's all about, at the end of the day, it's about being good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it makes the song not as political as it could have been. But, for me, I see a whole lot of the stuff that I see out there in the culture through the media and through the things I see on TV and things, and I see that we're in a situation right now where we're being very divisive in our rhetoric, and both sides are guilty. You know, if you're on one side, you can see the other side using that as a tool, but at the same time that he's using it as a tool, or they are using it as a tool, are you doing the same thing? And too many times the answer is yes. And I think we both need to step back and say, what are we really trying to do here? And let's, you know, it's like one of the quotes I was talking about, the idea of enough of this standing up for your right. Let's just be common, decent people to each other for a little while. You know, in other words, I was talking about the quote I was thinking of was about a marriage. And say, enough of this love stuff. Why don't we just be decent to each other? In the name of love, we're doing all these terrible things to each other. And so that's what I like about your song, that it does turn it in that upward direction for everybody. So it's not an attack you song. It's just, I mean, the other song, the other side could use it, but they'd have to change the words a little bit, but they could still use the message the same way. So that's what makes it not so much a political song. That's just off the top of my head. Did that sound right, what I just said?
Yeah.
Did you follow me?
Yeah.
Really?
Because I got the same thing when I first started. Then I thought, no, this isn't. Because when I first started, you know, I was thinking, yeah, this is a I thought, oh man, he's getting into something. Then I thought, no, it's actually very sweet and very like, let's just come together, and sort of the same thing you were saying.
I think, you know, Dylan sort of famously, when he stepped away from writing protest songs, it wasn't that he necessarily stopped writing protest songs. What he stopped writing was the finger pointing songs.
Right.
And that, but he still was a revolutionary voice, and still was. So I mean, to a certain extent, his songs have continued to be protest songs in a bigger sense or whatever.
Bigger sense. So.
Challenging songs or whatever.
Yeah, blowing in the wind doesn't offend any culture.
What was your Bob Dylan story? We're still on a Bob Dylan kick ever since we saw the movie.
I saw this thing yesterday. It was like in the 80s when they were, you know, when people couldn't smoke anymore. You couldn't go into bars and smoke. You had to go outside. And the Beastie Boys were at some Hollywood thing. And Mike D, one of his heroes is Bob Dylan. So they set it up where he could meet him. So he goes over there to meet him, and Bob Dylan has no clue who he is, you know, just what's going on. But he asked him how many tickets.
Just a quick second. Are we not on YouTube?
It is on YouTube. For some reason, it's not showing at the top as like the live thing that's happening.
Sorry, we're.
Sorry?
It is on YouTube, and Kethro checked back in. I got it on my phone, but not iPad. Weird.
Interesting.
But it's definitely on there.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on my channel on YouTube either.
Anybody else?
I don't know how people are going to watch it.
If anybody else is experiencing any trouble, please let us know in the Discord.
Oh, it's always something. Here we are being more profound, insightful,
man.
fact-based evidence.
The government shut us down when they start talking about getting together.
You're right.
Shut them down, quick!
All right. Well, the good news is that it is out there.
All right. Well, God's watching. This flat Earth is watching on YouTube, so someone's found it.
Dropping the link in the Discord, folks.
All right. The link has been dropped on our Discord porch. It's weird. Kether's saying she's on YouTube now. I got it on my phone, but not iPad for some reason. Well, hey, you just never know these days. It's a brave new world.
It's a brave.
Stuff's gonna keep getting weirder and weirder. So
There's been a lot of executive orders, and there could have been something about iPads. In
yeah,
there.
who knows? You got to read the fine print of all these things. Please.
Oh, so Mike D from the Beastie Boys wanted to meet Dylan, and Dylan, didn't have any clue who he was. So he asked how many tickets he could sell. Like, did he have a big following? And Mike D was like, "Why do you want to know?" And he said, "I'm having a benefit concert. And if y'all can sell some tickets, we'll put a younger crowd in there." So he asked him what the benefit was for. It was for smokers, because everybody was so against smoking. You had to go outside. He was having a benefit for people that smoke.
What?
I don't know if the thing ended. So I don't know if he ever did it or not. But he was trying to get people together to do a benefit concert.
You saw this?
Well, it was just like, and they were talking about it on YouTube or something. It was
That's
like
so
a little
funny.
document. I know. So he's like, that's how, because this guy smoked like all the time. So
Yeah,
he probably,
I was a smokers advocate back when they were making all the law changes
Yeah.
and stuff. I went on some completely probably irrational, inappropriate streams of consciousness on that topic back in the day on the Revolution Radio and stuff. The idea of cleaning up the bars to me was like trying to take religion out of church. I was like, you're trying to turn a den of debauchery into a healthy environment. I just can't.
They're like, what do you
I
think?
can't sit idly by.
What do you think now when you go like to Baja or something? It's usually pretty smoke free.
Well, you can still smoke there, can't you? Well, a lot of times you can.
Well, I think you can, but a lot of bands ask.
I'm not the smoker I used to be, anyways, and
I still like it though. I like going in and smelling the beer and the drinks and the cigarette smoke. Cheap perfume.
I used to always joke, like, there used to be people at Marino's was famously like the smokiest place in town. Like, people would be like, when I get home from Marino's, I have to take off all my wife makes me take off all my clothes outside of the house before I come in. Like, all those stories, and people would be like, I just can't go in there because of the smoke and everything. And I used to, back in my cocky, youthful days, I'd be like, yeah, like that's it's like filtering out all the weak people that we don't want to hang out with anyways. We didn't want to hang out with you anyways. That was my basic idea.
Oh gosh.
I think I'll always have I'll always have a bit of that in me.
Right.
I don't think I'll ever completely be like, oh, this is all just great now.
But even though I was never a smoker, you were just used to it. Like if you went to a factory, you expect to be loud noises. If you go into a bar, you expect it to be a little bit smoky. I never wanted a cigarette at all, but that was just part of the deal,
Mm-hmm.
You go to the amusement park, kids could be screaming. What are you going to do?
And there's a bit of, you go to a den of debauchery for a little bit
Yeah.
of chaos and anarchy. The idea that there's these rules and that you can get in trouble for doing what you. I know that there's always going to be some rules. You can't just do certain things. But I don't know how I feel about that either. We've already given you that inch. Now you're taking the mile.
I agree. It's kind of like, you're about to consume this depressant, right? And sit at a place and mope. So don't you want you want to feel bad about being there when you leave a little bit. Smell like smoke. You don't want to touch the bottom of your shoes. None of that, You kind of want that grime. And
Grime. You were never a smoker, but did it ever bother you?
The story I would relate about all that was I was thinking when you were talking how it does isolate section. And the best example I have is when I was teaching school, we had the smokers lounge and the non-smokers lounge.
Right.
And it automatically cut off certain people from ever seeing each other. And
I know where you hung out, even as a non-smoker. I know I could have told you where you hung out, even if I didn't know.
Because I had Ned Bonfoy's cigarette smoke on me. I mean, there was.
I just guarantee you the smoking one was more interesting.
Well, exactly. That was where I was going, because one part of it was that's where Stall 2 was born.
Right.
There was a lot of skullduggery done there, and you felt like you were, because I wasn't. The majority of us weren't smokers, but it didn't bother us. There were 3 of us that were heavy smokers that had to smoke, and then the rest of us either didn't smoke or maybe one, but to smoke, that was the bottom line, was from my days in the bars, I guess. But I don't inhale, but it doesn't bother me to do someone else, after it's diluted. It's all diluted enough that it doesn't bother me. But I can understand it can be very irritating.
Oh, absolutely.
If you have lung issues or philosophically, you don't want that stuff in you. There's nothing good going in from a cigarette that's going to help you, except the nicotine for a short period of time. And there you go. So it's a healthy choice to be in the bottom lounge, but I think all they did was wonder what we were up to.
Yep.
But who knows?
Afraid you might attack it at any day.
Yeah.
Some of them might have had a little bit of fear of missing out, too,
Oh, definitely, definitely. Well, but that would be the agree with you, and how it does separate you through the law. Yeah, this was when it was legal to smoke, but they did it voluntarily. Later on, or obviously you couldn't smoke at all.
This is the same high school I went to, and when I went there was a smoking section for the students.
Yeah.
Did they have that when you were in high school?
Oh yeah.
Well, they didn't even need a section then. They just smoked
out
up and down the hall.
Out in front of the high school was just cigarette butts everywhere.
Yeah. So funny.
I was reading somewhere you can't, in the 50s and early 60s, kids weren't allowed to wear jeans to school. Is that true?
Not in my school. I don't know what
Probably
school
a lot more schools had dress codes back then than today. It's just private schools and stuff, but even public schools had some kind of dress codes back then.
Could you wear a T-shirt, or did you have to wear like a button-down shirt?
Nobody told me what I had to wear ever.
But did you?
Good old Stanton public schools.
But did you know what you were supposed to wear?
Well, I wore what everybody else on the bus wore, or what we bought at Leggett's. We got T-shirts, and in the fall we wore an undershirt and a regular old shirt after over it, and nobody made fun of you, so it was good.
Did you have cigarettes rolled up in your sleeve?
No, that was Overbrook. that was the neighborhood over the hill.
Always had an extra pack of cigarettes rolled up in his T-shirt.
Rolled up in that T-shirt. You got that white T-shirt and them faded jeans and them black boots. The Fonz.
Did you smoke in high school outside with everybody?
Well, we always were up on top of the hill.
Okay.
I don't know if I ever went out to the riff-raff
dangerous
smoking
bleachers
section.
out there,
Yeah,
with straight drop bleachers. I remember when I was working at Markel, a friend of mine used to go smoke, and finally one day she said, "Why don't you just come with me? If you're a smoker, you can walk out here." So I started I would just go out there and talk for 10 minutes, whatever. One day my manager said, "You can't go out there." And I said, "Why?" She goes, "You don't smoke." I said, and I thought she was saying it because they were getting me to smoke. I was like, "Oh, no, I'm not smoking." She goes, "I know, that's why you can't go. Only smokers can go out there."
Oh, man.
And I was like, "Man, so they can get up and go like whenever they have the urge, but if I want to go talk to one of them, I can't go." She's like, "Yeah."
Oh my goodness, that's not right.
It sort of makes sense though, because I guess everybody sort of just, it's in your brain, that's like an addiction, so you're like, they can't help but let them go. But it's just sort of weird that I don't know if I was the first one, but I was the only one that I ever heard said, "No, you can't go out there." Because they were all standing around smoking, and I was just standing there. The other ones were probably looking at me like, "What's this clown doing out here? We're going to report you to HR. You shouldn't be out here." HR probably didn't even care until they told them. Get that non-smoker out of here.
That was a big reason why the spot when we did that on Jam Cruise was always outside and in the smoking sections or whatever. It was, and some people would complain about that, like, oh, I can't go to the spot because it's smoky. And I was always be like, it would just give me flashbacks of the old vintage Merinos days. I'm like, oh, I know who you sound like. That makes me feel like I just created Merinos. But on the other hand, I mean, we were like hunkered down there all night long. So like just the fracturing of the energies or whatever, if we were inside, where people would always be stepping out. Like smokers would have one foot on the platform and one foot on the train the whole time.
Right.
You just wouldn't be able to relax. You got to be able to just hunker down, do whatever the hell you want to do, and not have to have your energy in different places.
Right.
Whereas, smokers, if we were inside, they would never fully be present.
Right.
I feel like that's something. There's something to that. I know these days, like I'll just even at Marinos now when I go there, a lot of times if it's not cold outside, I'll just wind up playing wherever the smokers are allowed to be, because that's where we can really hunker down and get somewhere with all this, as opposed to just dipping your toe in.
So true.
What did he say that was so... I can't remember. I was going to tie it into what you just said. Oh, about moping. You don't want to be inside with all the people that are moping around, the people not smoking.
Well, I feel like, people in a smoke-free bar aren't doing the moping he's describing.
Okay.
I feel like
Yeah, that's probably not the right depiction. I was trying to tie.
they're probably
in
over
with
there
the
like,
person.
oh, I don't know what do y'all want to do after.
Right.
One drink, then we're moving on. Get out of here, you damn kids! I've been here since noon.
Is that shrimp breaded?
Everything is.
Everything is.
Is the sausage local?
Yep, and breaded.
Oh, man. But if you don't smoke, we still love you. I don't smoke. I love you deadheads, too.
I don't really smoke anymore. I at the beginning of our dry January, and our diet and everything, I was like, I had this one vape, and I was like, all right, I won't buy another one. I'll see how long I can make this last. Unbelievably, it's still going.
Wow.
Really?
That's
impressive.
Yeah, they usually would only last less than a week, so I've definitely been cutting weight. I might just inch it out of my life.
Great.
But I'm pretty sure that I'll still have the same opinion on these topics. I understand that I'm a little bit stubborn and probably a lot of bit wrong about a lot of things on that topic, but we all have to stand for something.
Well, yeah.
Good night, everybody. You choose your battles. But if you want to stand by smokers, you come with us.
I just want to go back in time and help Dylan with his benefit. He's about to have the Beastie Boys up in there. How you been, Dad?
Oh, it's been weird.
It's been so cold.
I have literally, I just think I've been in a shell. I'm a turtle in a shell. Mm. It's very hard for me to even communicate this way. Mm-hmm. And I don't have really any other way. So basically, I haven't been communicating except with texting and stuff like that, but that's not very good either.
You've had some good Facebook posts.
Well, I'm kind of losing a little of the spirit of that too, because it's kind of weird out there. Facebook's so weird. Mm-hmm. I mean, nobody does what I'm doing, really. I think I need another vehicle, but it's just so much advertising and crap, and just doesn't seem to be as much from my friends actually putting stuff up. Mm-hmm. As used to seeing, but a whole lot more advertising a lot more things I don't really want to be involved with.
Right.
It's like they figure out something about me, and it goes through the AI world, and everybody's talking. So when I walk in, they all look at me funny and send me pictures of certain people, and it's just weird out there.
It is weird out there.
It's like I don't want to be that well known. You know, like I asked some guy on the street where he got his car, and he said he got it, and then I got home and turned it on my phone and got on Facebook, and that company had an advertisement for that car
That's
on
eerie,
my
isn't
face.
it?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's definitely real.
And they keep putting cameras and stuff. If you have that problem, like, you know, somebody will give you something and there'll be a camera in there and they've been filming me. They got me the other day.
I don't have that
I
problem.
didn't have a shirt on or nothing the other day. They got the whole profile of me going out the door, and that's wrong.
That is wrong.
Yeah, and they put it up on Facebook and made me look
If
like
you're gonna be having that stuff out there, you should be getting paid for that, not them.
Exactly.
That just ain't right.
Exactly. It all comes down back to economics.
Yeah.
I'm not getting my share. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm fine. But I have been really isolated and figuring out how to work through the day and a lot different time periods for different things. But it's been wonderful that I'm warm and not in any pain, and my brain's still able to figure that stuff out. I have to write it down because I don't remember it. But there's advantages to that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I can only imagine.
It was like that one day I posted that it was like, I'm having so much trouble remembering stuff lately. It was 4 o'clock this afternoon until I remembered I was depressed.
Right.
There's that advantage.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. I know I'm sad, but there's about 8 different things here. Which one was it? I can't remember which one it was. But no, we're doing all right.
Good.
With what we've had some improvements and still need to do a little work around the house.
Health-wise or house-wise?
Something at my house. Haven't been many improvements in health-wise. We're going downhill, just trying not to slide too fast, so we can look out and enjoy going on down.
It's
We're
funny
good.
I was talking on my daily practice the other night about that phrase right there. I was like, never hits quite right, going downhill, or it's downhill from here, because it sounds easier. I mean, it's the direction I would want to go, especially with any heavy load or anything. Uphill is a struggle. It takes a lot of strength and effort. Going downhill sounds like a good thing to me, but I feel like it's usually not the way people use it.
Yeah, it depends on the context, so you're right. But yeah, some people, like in health, going downhill is going away from health. So
Interesting, right?
it's not always a visual thing, but yeah, when I think about it's all downhill from here, it means we've gotten to the worst, and that there is a
Smooth sailing to a certain
there is. It's not smooth sailing, but there is a little bit of release of the fact that that part over that, all of that is over, and you're slowing down, and it's a chance to kind of just ease away as you end the ride. So there is the advantage of some things slowing down, and you complain about all the things you can't do anymore that you could do Thursday. But at the same time, you're also released from having to do those things.
Right.
So, and I've always had, I've identified it, I think there's a psychological term, I don't know what the term is, but I've always been lazy.
I think it's the technical term.
Yeah, and I've just, in all areas, it's a very consistent trait that when you get right down to it, I don't really want to do anything. I want to sit around and watch somebody else do it and talk about it or think about it. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I just want to think about it. And so that's part of the problem that I have. The other problem is I can't remember what we were talking about. So there's that. And that's part of it too, because I don't remember the bad stuff. I think that's what I was talking about.
It's an uphill battle for you to remember what we were talking about.
Exactly. Uphill goes the other way, and it's always hard.
I mean, they both have bad connotations. They're an uphill battle, uphill climb. It's an uphill. It's all downhill from here. It seems like either direction. It's like, geez.
You better be happy where you are.
Right, just be lazy. That's actually the.
Well, just do what you're told.
Sisyphus could just sit down for a second. Just maybe forget about this whole stone thing.
Maybe stop trying to go anywhere.
Right.
Just
exactly.
enjoy the ride.
Just hunker down. I recommend if you do hunker down, do it somewhere where you're allowed to smoke, just in case. Just in case. Well, we're not seeing many chats. I feel like
I feel like that too.
There's a weird glitch going on. I'm not exactly sure what the technical difficulty is, but hopefully.
I'm blaming an executive order. It had to be.
Trump really seems to be marketing
his
his signature, his autograph. Like, I feel like he's not just signing a bunch of ridiculous executive orders, but he's like showing his signature every time or whatever. And like, it has this look, and now they're selling everything from tennis shoes to coins with, like, but I feel like he cares more about his signature being worth money than any of the stuff he's actually signing. I don't know. That's my take. Squanjo. Oh, right. Look at this. Oh, Bates is back. All right.
All right, Bates.
Is there something, Steve, you can't do today with mayonnaise that you could do Thursday?
Oh,
let it out. Bates is back.
There we go.
You gotta be kidding.
I don't want to get like all political, but we have talked about religion before. What did you think of, or either one of you, what the bishop directed?
Well, I thought it was great, and she really reminds me of the lady that married Catherine and I. She was Shelby, who passed away recently, and I felt like Shelby's presence, which warmed my heart, just because they're such kindred souls, and so that's where I was with that. And I just want to say about the politics thing, I feel freer to talk about politics now than I have in a long time, just maybe because the election energy is over. Like, you don't have to really worry about shifting the collective consciousness the wrong direction or anything. Like, you don't, it's not as, I'm not as nervous about saying anything that I think, because there's no election coming. I mean, for the last 8 years, there always was the next election. Like, I didn't want to talk about Biden for 4 years just because Trump was still out there. Like, I don't know, like, all those energies are still at play. There was this divisiveness and all this stuff. And I didn't want to say anything or do anything that would shift anything. And I don't know, like, I just felt like it was a little bit more tenuous for the last forever long. At this point, all bets are off. Like, I don't have a problem saying anything.
Smoke them if you got them.
That's a good time to thank our sponsor, American Spirit Cigarettes.
No, I understand what you're saying. But I totally agree too. It was his party, it was his celebration, and she was talking to him. But I did see somebody making fun of him. Was like, what if they're like the regular preacher at a church? Like, today we're going to talk about drunkenness and sinners and cheaters, and Gary, we want you to listen. Like, like, whoa, why are you saying my name?
What was the occasion? I don't even.
It was just one of those after church things that they do. I think every president does. They go over there to the cathedral or whatever it was, and just have a little, Because church and state are totally separated, so they do a little church thing in there to get it. I guess it's like a goodwill blessing. to
All
everybody.
I've seen, I don't know any of the context or anything. I've just seen what she said,
Yeah.
and I
Which
read
was
it
not
first, and then I
divisive.
watched her. Yeah, I mean, she was just saying what needed to be said from her standpoint.
Yeah.
She was pleading for mercy, and she's receiving death threats because of
Yeah.
it. Like, what is wrong with us?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's we already know that that's going to happen, and I feel like we got to be careful with how we overblow that, because of course she's getting death threats. It's 2025 and the internet exists. It's like she's going to get death threats even if no human makes death threats.
Right.
Like, there's bots, millions of bots assigned to that task. Like, that's just going to happen with every story, and we have to be aware of that. Like, on the other hand, there's a truth to it, like, too. Like, why would the bots do that if it's not like, if it's not possible to believe it's possible, then it wouldn't have any impact.
Right.
So, like, that there's something worth talking about and thinking about. I'm not saying there's not, but at the same time, we can't be surprised by that kind of stuff these days. The thing that, like, going back to what you said earlier, like, for a long time, a lot of us believed and still believe that, like, the actually powerful forces in the world want us to be divided, and it serves them. Like, so there's that whole notion of, like, the ultimate puppeteers just loving how effective their dividing the people has become. And it's like it's such a confusing time for everybody to know, like, how to fight that force that is dividing us. Because if you point it at the thing that you're divided against, you create that separation even more. But at the same time, like, it's so confusing. So how do you fight evil if you don't? I don't. It's a really confusing time, I feel like, for everybody.
You know, one of the things that occurs to me about this time is that, and I think a lot of people, I don't think this is any great news, but I think a lot of people are doing that. But I think it's a time where you need to just basically sit back and watch it happen and see all of these threats, or whatever, promises, I should say, depending on what side you're on.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever he's saying, he's trying to implement it, which, give him credit. He said he's going to do it. He's trying to do it. And he's trying to do it with an attitude. And it'll just be a real good test of what's going to happen. It's going to be real interesting how people react to it. And we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We can all prophesy, or we can sit back and watch. But, at a certain point, in other words, some of the things he might want to do might work. And I think you want to be around for that. That's okay. I don't want to get into that framework of, I don't want to like anything he ever does.
Right, everything's bad.
Everything's
no matter what
bad no matter what. That's what they did to Obama. And historically, they came out and said, we're not going to let him pass anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it stalemated the entire world,
Mm-hmm.
or the economy of our country and our culture. And it was wrong. Well, it's wrong now to go the other way and say, I'm not going to support anything that he does. If he does something good, give him credit for it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we can come back around. Some of it might work.
Mm-hmm.
When he talks about waste in the government, there's definitely waste there.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't heard enough about the waste in the private culture of the conglomerates and the big money people, too.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are making the money. What this country needs to come to realize is very simple. That if you take an institution, like, example, I was thinking today of a hospital. You know what runs a hospital? Nurses. Nurses run a hospital. They give you the love, they give you the knowledge, they do the shit. They do it. If your nurses walked out, the hospital shuts down. Every one of those guys on payroll up top making all those decisions, they can all go home and never come back, and we'll keep running. And that's the way the world really works. And as soon as the shit hits the fan, if it does, you know, I think it will. It'll bounce back, and we'll see it'll change again. It's a pendulum. And so now, but it's going to be real interesting. And some of it, I think, is definitely harmful. And let's see how harmful it is and what happens and where we go with it. And I'm not saying don't fight back. Keep doing whatever you do and the way you do things to represent what you believe. But I think it's also a time to look around and take advantage of the things that we can take advantage of. So I'm off the soapbox. I had no idea I was going to say that kind of stuff. Sorry.
Don't be.
Well, that's a very good point, because I get so worked up in the things that annoy me about him, and just, oh my God, he did this. And he like took the Spanish things down off the internet and all this stuff. You're like, oh, then, like you said, he could be doing 3 or 4 good things.
Yeah, you just don't know yet.
Yeah.
And he might be doing good things for the wrong reasons, but turns out being good, we'll just take it. Yeah, we'll see.
There's from a greater distance, it's always been so frustrating. I felt this way even before Trump, like back when you had the left with the Occupy Wall Street and you had the right with like the Tea Party. And from my vantage, I was like, oh my God, you guys are saying the same things. They were both against these super rich, powerful, elite echelon that seemed to be controlling the world with no accountability, no real connection to the actual humanity of the planet. Like both, but and so that's like the old, like, oh, the puppeteer keeps them divided. Like, you got to keep the Tea Party from the Occupy Wall Street people. If they get together, there's actually a threat to the status quo. So then enters Trump and all these and the some of the more woke stuff or whatever, like just sort of like made sure that those two contingents couldn't get together. And it's so interesting watching it all happen. Like, if you listen to a lot of the things MAGA says, completely reminds me of all the old hippies from my 20s. Like, their conspiracy theories, their anti-war stuff, their distrust of the media and stuff like that. I mean, like, all these things were originally leftist principles. Noam Chomsky wrote a book called Manufacturing Consent in like the 70s or 80s about how the media was all completely corrupt and was all just a pro-capitalist, pro-hegemony, America empire, you know, like, and then MAGA comes out with like, oh, it's all fake news, and we all run out to support the newspapers. We all get subscriptions to the New York Times. Like, what are these people saying? These institutions are important. MAGA starts challenging the FBI and the CIA, and all of a sudden all the left is like, we have to support these institutions. Like, what the hell just happened? We spent all my life talking about how corrupt the American Health Association was, how corrupt the CIA was, how corrupt the FBI was, how corrupt the media was. And the second MAGA says the same stuff, we're defending all these things on a turn of a dime, like without any interesting conversations about this complete polar shift that we've all done. Like, I feel like it's way more interesting than anyone talks about. And still they're just like, everybody gets sort of primeval about it, like them bad. End of conversation. It's like, wait a second, this is all way more interesting than anybody is making it appear to be.
Well, it's like a football game. You're both trying to do the same thing, but if the other team does it too, you don't stand back and clap your hands so they had a good play. You're like, oh man, that was beautiful. You know, it's like, it's set up like a sport almost.
It
like
is set up
public
like
entertainment.
And that's where, like, when sometimes I have that distance of not being a fan of either team, where you can just appreciate every good play, or just mock every bad play. You know, like there is something healthy about that distance.
Right. Now, do you think the bishop had a feeling? Because what she said, if you heard it, I mean, that's like what you would tell a child. It's just a beautiful, nice way to be. So, do you think she saw it that way, or do you, going back to Dylan, do you think she saw it like it's the Dylan Newport Festival? Like, man, I'm gonna turn this on, turn the world upside down with this.
I don't know if I know enough about it to say.
Right.
She was recently interviewed on NPR and gave a really good answer to kind of where it came from. Like, did she have a plan going in to address anything in particular like that? And I'll just say you should seek it out. I'll share a link to it later, but yeah, it's really good, and she's very well spoken on it. It's cool.
Because what she said was not, in any way, who would take that as a, I mean, like, you would raise your kids by those things. You know, it wasn't really attacking anybody, but that somebody can see it as a bad way. I can also see that, you know.
Well, I mean, the way it was shared on social media and stuff was all...
it was very finger pointing.
I mean, just to be a little cynical, and I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but full disclosure, although I loved everything she said and I loved her energy and it warmed my heart, her book is now sold out. She has a book called, How to Be Brave or something like that, and it's sold out now. So, like, she did, like, elevate herself.
Right.
Which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, and maybe that was not her intention or motivation. But
So I can expect to see her on The View next week.
Maybe, probably. But humanity is complex like that, and I'm not exactly sure. Like, it's so hard to know anymore what the pure motivations of people are, or what they actually achieve. Like, what is the actual result of it.
I guess her book is battling against, suppose the Eagles guy was reading the book on the sidelines, and that went to #1 that week.
What was that? What book was that?
Oh, it was like How to Succeed, one of those like Succeed books or something. But on the sidelines, he was sitting there reading. He had highlighted some parts that said it just helps him stay focused on the game. And they sort of, I think it was Troy Aikman or somebody said, I've never seen anybody read a book on the sideline. So it brought attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then next week it was a top selling book, Amazon bestseller or whatever. So I guess you just whoever could be in the news, people just want to eat it up, How to Succeed. Oh, now we got some religious stuff. All right, let's go.
Hey, John Huggins, welcome to the show. Mr. Steve, you make a lot of sense, he says.
Well, thank you, John.
Kether says, or others elevated her because they appreciated her voice. 100%. 100% true. And Bates, I'm sorry, unless you're talking about mayonnaise, I don't hear a word you say. Did you hear the?
I did.
Did you hear the preacher that we're talking about? Do you know?
I haven't listened to it enough to analyze it the way y'all are. Mm-hmm. Didn't stay with that. I know what you're talking about, and I heard her, but I didn't analyze it, or I don't have any comments. Mm-hmm. Except that I did put some extra mayonnaise on the egg salad I got the other day.
Not just the mayonnaise in the egg salad itself, but on the bread
I
as
added
well.
some mayonnaise to the bread.
Next level.
Full disclosure, Bates, I'm guilty. That's the only thing I've had with mayonnaise this week. I'm more ketchup-y than mayonnaise-y.
It is strange with the politics stuff, especially when you get into the teams and splitting over, like how people just like what MAGA, a lot of what MAGA's doing, there is a darkness to it, and you can't help, like, you see it on both sides where people just lean a little too hard into this ideology and they say stuff that doesn't really make rational sense, or they're just hateful, and you're just like, oh wow, and so there's a darkness on all sides to a certain extent, just that hate that is inspired in people's hearts. But the MAGA thing has like a darkness to it sort of built in, and it's just so fascinating, like watching Musk, this like probably on the spectrum autistic, can't help but flash like do the Nazi thing at the inauguration. He's like,
That's crazy.
and it's just because that's like, he's autistic, so he doesn't have the filter, and he can't help. He knows that's happening a little bit. Everybody knows that's happening a little bit. MAGA, some people will lean into it just because it's all about making the libtards uncomfortable. It's about owning the libs or whatever. So they do it sort of less like genuinely from a place inside, and more like a shallow troll just to try to get a rise out of people. But that energy is present in the movement, the Nazi energy. Yeah. It just is like the way they're dehumanizing segments of the population, or immigrants, or the LGBTQ community. Like there's dehumanizing language, and so it's really, really hard for most people not to want to stand in front of that tank.
Well, you're talking about your perspective, and another person could be sitting right here and just saying that, the liberals that stereotype me just because I have a Southern accent, and they knock my IQ down to 80, and then they just start talking over top of me and act like I don't know anything that's going on. I find that rather offensive.
Right.
So
and dehumanizing.
And very much dehumanizing.
It's dehumanizing to call people Nazis. That's dehumanizing.
Well, yes, it is. And I don't support Nazis in any way. You take a couple people making symbols and take that whole movement and make it a Nazi program, and that's just not what's happening. It's not what happened, except in your mind when you look at it that way. Now, the tactics that those people used in that time and the tactics that some people are using these days are the same tactics, because that's what works when you're bullying people into trying to play the game your way, which means you're going to win. They're trying to tilt the game. But there used to be people that could stand up and say, well, we're going to have to play the game a better way. But it doesn't come by just creating more barriers. It comes by being honest and throwing it in your face, but right to your face, not about you, but to you. I don't know. But I think there's both sides again. That's all I'm trying to say, is what you said was eloquent in your cause, but I tried to represent another way of looking at that same issue and coming out the other side just like they want us to.
Right.
Because that is part of the strategy. The overall strategy from whoever's really running it is divide and conquer. If they can get this country fighting each other, then we can't beat anybody else.
Do you think there's any... Is that a metaphor, or is that a literal thing? That real power, that divide and conquer idea, is that just sort of like the nature of the whole collective system, or are there?
Well, I mean, divide and conquer is literally a tactic. Divide and conquer defeated the Indians, the Native Americans of the Southeast, because they stayed tribal. And they couldn't get their act together until it was too late.
But who do you think's using divide and conquer in the context of this conversation? Is it?
I think that's a Trump game plan from the time he was a little boy. That's just part of the way you operate.
That's what I was wondering, if it was more of a Trump thing, or if there was a higher power than that was using Trump as a part of the divide and conquer.
I have no. That at that point, you're going to ask me to go into a theory.
Yeah.
And at that point,
And
we're
we'd probably
talking.
end up at the Illuminati or
Yeah, we're talking
Freemasons
about
or
conspiracy theory. I had no idea. But I do know that one person can have an idea that can catch on. And it could be just, but there could be a movement. But, he's an interesting character. Because if he is under somebody's tutelage, he's doing a good job of pretending.
I don't think he's under anybody's tutelage.
Exactly.
Not necessarily.
I don't think so either. Now, the fact that he can be controlled is another issue, but he's got his own way of looking at things.
He definitely has an interesting presence on the world stage.
Yeah.
All the Kim Jong-uns and Putins and even Zelensky's and Netanyahu's and stuff like that. He has a very interesting presence on the world stage. I don't think anybody necessarily, well, who knows, but I feel like a lot of people fear him in a way that sort of leads to like that level of echelon of respect or whatever. It's a game that none of us could play, could barely comprehend how it all works, but it is sort of fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
I just think it's weird how the people that are voting for him are, like, say, Lex's age or a little bit younger. They have kids or in school where it's, if I understand, I haven't been to school, but I understand it's anti-bullying. And like Lex was telling us a year or so ago, like his kids have seen so many transgender people and they know somebody at school. That seems so acceptable and normal, not bullying. But then, so the parents are raising these kids at these views. And then this man who's a complete bully, a complete destroyer of people, that separate him. But then they're voting for him. Like, they're seeing like both sides of the spectrum. They're like, all right, we got to teach our kids not to do this, but this guy's doing it, so he's voting for president. I don't understand how their brains can operate, or do they just not even believe, like, oh no, stay away from the transgender kids, and I forget what the other example I even said. Oh, bully them all you want, It's just, I have a hard time seeing how I could do that. Like, well, no, I probably do that for lots of stuff.
What do you mean? What was that thought?
Well, like I was gonna say, like, no, don't drink and drive, you idiot! Don't you ever drink and drive? Then, how many times have I got in the car and drunk and drive? So I guess it's not as hard to believe as I was making it out to be. But I would think it was weird if your kids came home and were telling you all this stuff, and my best friend is transgender, and there was somebody bullying. We had a class.
But you're
about
thinking, you're talking like everybody agrees with you that he's a bully. A lot of people don't see him that way at all. They see him as a legitimately powerful man. They're buying the product, obviously. So they're not conflicted, like you're saying. That's all I'm.
Well, I think anybody would agree. Like the stuff he says. I mean, I agree he's a powerful man, but you have to see he's a bully. Biden's out of that moron. The guy's been out of office for 5 days. That moron, that's the worst idiots ever run the country. That's bully talk. A powerful person wouldn't say that. And he talked, the woman that talked to him, she's nasty. She's, ugly. I mean, he's very much of a bully. So I understand.
Definitely part of his brand from day one.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Mocking people and encouraging violence against protesters at his rallies back in the early day and stuff. Like, oh, back in my day, they would be leaving here on a stretcher. Like, don't let them get away with that. Don't worry, I'll pay your lawyer bills. Like, like encouraging bullying behavior. And it's always sort of astounded me that people. I would have more appreciation for people who are like, yeah, he's a bully, that's why I like him, as opposed to pretending like they don't see what I'm talking about. Right. It's like, come on, like that's part of his brand. It's like,
I like that he tells it like it is.
It's also a weird thing to talk about. Like, we can sit here and talk about racism and stuff like we've ever experienced, horrible racism. Bullying too, like I don't remember ever being bullied. I don't remember bullies being at school, but it's like everybody knows what bullies are, but I would assume bullying is being bullied is worse than I can even imagine. I mean, I don't remember anybody. Were there a lot of bullies at school?
I don't know.
Hey, you know what they say? If you've never been bullied, you might be the bully. I mean, maybe you were a bully and you don't realize it. You were very effective.
Yeah, the chats are lighting up right now.
Oh yeah?
No, I'm just saying.
I remember that. I remember him.
Victims of Kyle, please chime in the chat. This is a safe place.
Funky Feet First says, all the pieces seem to be playing in divide and conquer. It seems to be a great political strategy. It seems to work. Mr. Moore, does it remind you at all of the rise of the Nazi? He's not as old as you might think.
When you were suiting up for World War II, did you?
I'm not as German as I look. Either.
Do you feel history is repeating itself? Many see him as sent from God. These are from the chats.
Oh, yeah. Have either one of y'all seen it's a 1920 movie called Golem?
No.
It's a silent movie.
Golem? Golem?
Yeah, well, however you say Golem.
Like the guy from Lord of the Rings?
Well, it's like they build this guy. The Jewish, it's like a kingdom, and they're going to get rid of all the Jewish people, and they're going to kill them. So one of the rabbis builds this golem thing that can like real talk and can fight, you know. But it was made in 1920, and we were watching it like, wait a minute, when was this thing made? It told the story of the Nazis but maybe the Jewish people have been persecuted for so long, they weren't even thinking about that. They were thinking about something other terrible. I mean, I don't know the history of all that either, but it just told the story so.
And before any of it happened, prescient, interesting.
But I think people with the history of people that know World War II, and they're smart. I mean, of course they're using all those same tactics and stuff. You know, they're like you said, just might not be Nazism, but it's they're using the same tactics to get stuff done.
Because it works.
Yeah, and then Trump's taking away like their Secret Service men and stuff, like some of the guys that he disagreed with, like Bolton and stuff. Like Bolton's like, I've gotten death threats because of this. Now he's just telling me I can't have. I mean, that's to me bullying. Like, all right, everybody want to F with me? I'll show you what I can do. I don't know. I don't want to get out talking about that.
I definitely wouldn't. Like the idea of like, is history repeating itself? Is this like the rise of a Fourth Reich, the American Nazi movement? I feel like that's not necessarily a productive way of thinking about it.
Right.
No, I agree.
And even if it was in some way, it's like bound to be completely different in a million different ways. Like it's that, like the idea of history repeating, like it might be like there might be some similarities, or we're a lot different of a civilization now than it was then. America's a lot different. There's so many there's just as many differences that you could talk about as similarities that will all change the trajectory and make it a unique occurrence in this current time. It's what's happening now is unique to this moment in time in as many ways as it might be reminiscent of some other time.
Right.
And we need to respond and act in new ways and in evolved ways.
If the Commanders won the Super Bowl, that would be a start to making things better, right?
Right. I agree with that.
That's something I wouldn't mind talking about if we want to shift gears a little bit. I gotta say.
But yeah, what could happen that could lift the country up? You know, is it the Olympic hockey team winning the Olympics? You know, like we need a moment like that.
Wow.
What, to get all on the same page again?
Yep.
Yep, that would be.
Well, it's not the Commanders that are going to do that.
No.
I think a smoker's benefit will get us all back together again.
That's a cultural thing right there.
Classically speaking, it would be a war. Due for a war. I was thinking about that, like as I watched like some of these guys smoking their cigars with American flags behind them, talking politics and stuff, and it was just like, there is this sense that I think about from time to time about how all of human history, for the most part, was sort of like war was the guiding thing. Like in all cultures, not even like just like the ruling cultures, but in all cultures, like it seems like for thousands of years, especially for the men, to be the warriors was like part of the main thing that was happening. That's how you identified. That's how you rose in prominence. You were the great warrior of your people or whatever. And everybody was expected to fight. Everybody, especially all the men, anyways. It was like such a huge part of our identity and our survival. I don't know. It's such a fascinating thing about how, like, I feel like a lot of what's going on now is that we've been fooled by this illusion of peace into becoming not warlike creatures. And for like the MAGA people, that's terrifying. And to like the left people, it's like really relieving. But I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like,
Yeah, I know where you're going with it. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
it's just I don't know enough about it maybe to be too interesting about it, but it hits me from time to time. I'm like, all right, like we used to always define ourselves in by war. Like even like, you know, to be the best warrior in your tribe or your clan or whatever, like that was like a huge archetypal thing of what you were in the world, and your people, your ability to defend yourselves or to conquer was what determined your pride in your culture, and if you didn't have that, you were probably wiped out. Like it used to really matter how good of a warrior you were. It wasn't just like, because if you weren't very good, we probably aren't talking about you now. Like that whole thing got conquered or whatever. I don't know, but like now it's not just like not having those identifying things or that structural stuff or those identities to embrace or those archetypes to model yourself after or to sing about or to inspire the imaginations of children or all. There's so many complex ways that those archetypes work into our stories and our identities of ourselves. But it's also like if you get too far from any of that identity, you are now easy to conquer. You're not a warlike, you're not good at that anymore. Like you don't just, you either identify as a football player and then you might have a chance of winning the game. If you're just like, I haven't thought about football in years, you're not gonna, I mean, you can't compete. Am I making any sense? All right, now say back to me what I'm trying to say.
Did you just see Gladiator 2?
Yeah, you did. I sure did. Yeah.
No, it makes sense, but you hope that I guess the game plan. Well, I totally agree with what you're saying. Prominently men, have some weird desire to climb up on top and beat somebody. Not always physically, but even just anything, gambling or tennis, whatever. But I think the war thing, don't they, in the game plan, that's sort of the human brain evolves and gets, or do you think it hasn't been long enough that we've lost that?
Well, I'm saying if your culture thinks that you've evolved past that, you might be about to get conquered by a culture that hasn't.
Sneak attack, okay. Yeah, you might be the biggest.
And that's some of the driving energy going on right now, is that there's half of us that are like, we are getting weak.
Well, Trump does push that, I think, 'cause he puts us against the world. Like, we have to be tough because, he really makes it, well, maybe they don't think so. When I hear him talk, it's like, man, every country's coming after us, the Panama Canal, like, I haven't thought about the Panama Canal in 50 years, and all of a sudden I'm like, what's going on down there, and just, what's Canada going to do to us, like, nobody gives a
We've
crap
got to get
about Canada.
Greenland.
Yeah, like, it's like, it really is, he does like you said, just throw the match on the or throw the gas on the fire to get that going again. But that can be turned into a good energy if you use it.
And meanwhile, like, the world does prove that the world is not evolved past war. Like, but not by a long shot. Like, what's happening in Ukraine is insane. What's happening in the Middle East is insane. Like, it, you know, like the threats that China does potentially pose. Like, who knows? Like, as climate change devastates resources, and there might be big moves that are going to be made on the world stage chessboard in the future that I don't know. I just don't know what I think about any of that. It's all very confusing for me, being a pacifist. Ultimately.
Well, I'm just thinking, now that you're talking about it that way, wasn't one of Biden's things that America was going to pull together and build the bridges and the faster railway and all that stuff? If Trump could turn that energy that he's created into, like, look, we're going to build the best highways, and we need people to design them, and people to lay the tar, and people to dig the ditches. If he could get really people fired up like that to good things, that'd be an awesome power to have.
Mm-hmm.
Man, he could
Yeah,
really,
and
he could really
self-reliance
change
is
the
a powerful
world.
thing. I'm a fan of self-reliance.
You guys heard about Stargate?
Stargate?
Yeah, I saw
The
that.
show?
It's a new thing that Trump made that I'm going to get this wrong. So chat, correct me or forgive me, everyone, for not being super accurate on this, but it's a big buy-in, a bunch of tech leaders and stuff buy-in. It's like a $600 billion thing that they're putting money towards, and the government's putting money towards, to build out AI infrastructure. It's going to create thousands of jobs across the country as they build these big energy and data centers that'll be kind of running on its own energy, is the idea, all that. So big investment, big giant investment. It's they're calling it Stargate.
Isn't that the one Saudi Arabia dedicated like $6 billion to or something?
Bates says, people are addicted to leaders. Take a refrigerator full of condiments. Which one is the lead condiment? Does that make that condiment good?
And we read that because you did reference mayonnaise in your own way. So that's how we can see that. Yeah, I mean, that's...
Well, you get...
Leader, I mean, I don't know if we'll ever... We've tried so many ways to evolve past the... I've studied a lot of anarchist philosophy and stuff over the years, and the idea of doing away with hierarchies and power at the top, and aka leaders or whatever, is always a fascinating thing to explore, but I'm not exactly sure that it's as meaningful as we want, because you need leaders, you need teachers, you need guides. When you're young, you need someone to guide you, to teach you, to, the football coach is not going to just become, we're not going to evolve past the need for them and somehow just come fully formed onto the playing field.
Now, how do you think you've evolved in your humanity when it comes to, like, the Eagles versus the Commanders? How do you draw yourself up for that battle? Dignified? That's some smart shit to
my
say.
brother is a huge Eagles fan, and we are pretty huge Commanders fans, and they are playing each other on Sunday, and Joe has invited us out to their house, but I don't think that we can go.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean,
I just feel like it's too much.
Well, see, that's what we're talking about. See, even for something as simple as a football game, it's still... I mean, me and my brother the same way. If a game like that, he could say something that would make me just want to... I wouldn't, but it would make me just want to punch you in the back of the head.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Joe gets very emotional. Yeah. I'm getting there with our love for the Commanders. We're really have a relationship now that's been evolving. Now that I've been in a luxury box right behind the end zone, I mean, I'm sort of part of the family, and to a certain extent.
You'll probably get a ring if they win the Super
Yeah,
Bowl.
I might get a ring if we win.
I think that's what they said that you would.
What are you thinking, Dad?
I'm thinking they bought you. Bought your damn fandom.
We'd like to thank our new sponsor, the Washington Commanders.
The Washington Commanders. It is exciting to see them. I mean, that game last week was way more fun to watch than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be tough. I mean, because they've been so scrappy all year. Like, it's hard to tell how good they actually are because they keep on eking out these wins at the last second and stuff, and just sort of not dominating necessarily, but still like not losing and scrappy and like. But then going up against the Detroit Lions, I was completely prepared for all right, this might be like the reckoning. The truth is revealed. They're not quite ready for prime time. But man, they dominated that team. They kicked that team's butt up and down the field. I just don't even know what to say about it. Oh man. So I'm very excited for this game on Sunday. I have to set my alarm clock so I don't miss the beginning of it.
Well, I don't know if you're going out there, but I wouldn't be caught dead with both y'all in the same ring.
You might just get torn asunder.
Nah, I don't want to get in the way of that. Catch a stray piece of shrapnel.
Now, are you the type, like, if the Commanders were losing, like, down by 20 with, like, 5 minutes, you just like, come on, Cat, there's time to go, like, get out of there? Or would you wait till the end?
This.
Oh, I don't even know. No, I don't think I would be like that. I think I would just be like really suppressed and confused about how to express myself, which I sort of was when we were in that luxury box, because the opposing team's quarterback's wife and kid were in the same box with us.
Oh, man.
So, like, I didn't know if I could even cheer for my team. I was just like,
that's crazy.
It was so funny because they were like, we got to be on our, this is like a old classmate of my brother-in-law's. And so, there's like one thing, just like, be sure to behave yourself. You want to get asked back, like, don't get out of control or anything. So we go in and we sit down, and all of a sudden, like within like the first couple of minutes, there's this interception, and they're running it back, and I completely lost myself, and I'm banging on. I'm like banging on the window that's right in front of us. The metal
Were you
of
doing
it.
this?
And no, but I'm just banging on it. And yelling, and then like after about 10 seconds of this, I'm like, oh my God, I've been here for 2 minutes and I've already lost complete control of myself.
Let me on the field!
and I just sat on my hands after. I just couldn't believe how much I just lost myself. Completely sober, no excuse. Like sports are fun like that. I know a lot of people struggle with sports, but sports are such fascinating entertainment. And really, like, the thing that makes sports very interesting is like you have to get emotionally invested to really get the payoff. Like, and sometimes that can be like emotionally invested to like a losing team for years. Like it can be a sad investment. You're just like, why am I doing this to myself? But then the day comes. But sports is the only thing. Like if you look in a window, if you're walking down the street and you look in the window of a house and there's someone standing on the furniture screaming at the top of their lungs, I guarantee you sports is on. Either a mouse is in the house or they're watching sports. Sports is such a unique form of entertainment, and it's such an interesting investment of emotion in order to get the reward. But finding a way to care, get into the story. That's one thing I've always loved about you. If a game's coming on, I can get you to tell me some kind of story that will get me emotionally invested in the game I'm about to watch. Oh, well, this player just had this thing happen, or there's some kind of story that you can latch on to. But do you ever get that way with sports?
Oh yeah, I get so carried away. I was gonna tell you. Last week I went up for the second half of the Eagles game, and they were up by like 47, whatever they were up by. We got to talk, and we look. The Rams are about to score to take the lead. Like, we just totally lost interest in the game. They were so ahead. But oh my God, I've bawling my eyes out over games and just, slam stuff on wife. Coming down, what's going on down here? Get the fuck back upstairs. Did they lose? Yeah, they fucking lost. Why do you think I'm so mad? Just like.
Who's your team?
And back then it was usually UNC basketball. Mm-hmm. But I was a big Skins fan too. But just then you like don't even want to go to work. I don't even want to face anybody. I know they're gonna say something too.
For the gamblers out there, what are your picks for this coming weekend? Do you have any?
I was just thinking about the gamblers out there, because that's the whole thing.
That's a way to get emotionally invested.
That's another way to get emotionally invested every time. And they're riding it to the bank.
You don't need a story or nothing.
No, you just need -3.5.
Right.
Hopefully you'll get 3.5 in your life.
Now that is the thing that he's talking about. Sports now, you really know the players with ESPN and
Fantasy football.
Well, yeah, you just know it. You know where they went to college, what happened, when their dad died, you just know everything about them. When you were watching football, like in the '60s, did they tell you all that stuff about players? Did you know their story and stuff? So that's always been part of the.
They had playing cards.
Yeah, I had football cards and baseball cards.
But did you know, like now they say, well, him and his wife are bad.
I didn't know the social things.
Right.
No. I didn't know that their wife was a model or anything like that.
Right.
But definitely as a players, like they had a deep, like especially with playing cards, a manifestation of it.
But not just the facts. Like we know everything about these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They got a DUI. They were fined $5,000 for being late to practice.
We're definitely in a different culture.
Yeah.
In terms of
when he was a kid, they were smoking in the dugout. Like.
Joe Namath really kind of changed some things and kind of turned football players into celebrities.
Yeah. Hollywood.
Yeah, that's true. He was definitely a part of that.
Well, we did it again, folks. It was fun being with you guys.
Been nice.
Here's another new one I'm working on here.
You tell if it's political before you start saying
They're all political. None of them are. If you haven't wrestled the devil, I don't want to go. If you haven't wrestled the devil, how would you know? I won't follow you into battle. I don't want to hear your song. If you haven't wrestled the devil, this world is full of angels, and they're all right, Not a one of them spent a minute on it down below. They never had my back, they never stole the show. It's funny, it's them keeping track everywhere we go. If you haven't wrestled the devil, I don't want to go. If you haven't wrestled the devil, how would you know? I won't follow you into battle. I don't want to hear your song. If you haven't wrestled the devil, and won. If you're sure the cure must be pure, you're probably never ill. I swore I would never, but for her I'd kill. Whether you're standing on a soapbox or reading from the Bible, out here in the boondocks, it's all about survival.
haven't wrestled the devil, I don't wanna go. If you haven't wrestled the devil, how would you know? I won't follow you into battle, I don't wanna hear your song. If you haven't wrestled the devil and won.
Yeah,
There you go.
I like it.
That's
Like
a
it.
hit right there.
Is that political?
Nah,
Thank you all so much. I'll see you next time.
just saying you had to be there.
Right.
You can't get there from here.
Took me back to the Beautiful Day American Beauty. Had a song about I don't want to be your friend. It's the friends with the devil.
Oh, wow. And friend of,
I think it's something like that.
and friend of the devil.
Yeah, I don't want to be your friend. It's your friends with the devil. Something like
Is that a different song than Friend of the Devil? I went out to Reno and they were left one.
Is that a dead song?
Yeah. The one that's like.